Especially with the pandemic and everything that's happening right now, I feel like they're pushing this idea even more. We need to stop this, people. The toxic culture of minimalism. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Originally, when I saw the Minimalist documentary years ago, I was very happy about it because Ryan and Joshua really dove into how, for them, stuff was in the way to go deep dive into themselves, aka personal development. What a great concept is that you need to get rid of the stuff that's distracting you to get to the core problem of who you are, what you really want in life, and how you can move forward so you can have the best life you possibly can. Love it. Fast forward a few years, social media has taken it in a very, very different direction. If you go to YouTube, you'll see all of these videos on minimalism and people getting rid of their stuff and people doing a whole channel on how they save money from minimalism and how they don't buy all these things and how that's helping them save more money. And the focus has become really solely on the things itself and almost demonizing things and demonizing spending money. And I think that is the most toxic thing ever. I'll tell you why. I am a natural minimalist. I actually don't like accumulating a lot of stuff. Stuff makes me very, very nervous. And that really stems from my own insecurities. It stems from my non-committal issues, meaning I have slight commitment issues. I would say major, but I'm working on it. So I'm going to say slight right now. Because of those things, I'm naturally a minimalist. The people where minimalism helps are people who are natural hoarders. So if you are a hoarder, and you like to accumulate stuff for the sake of accumulating stuff, minimalism is probably something to look into. However, it's only something to look into because it's probably going to reveal the core issue of why you're a hoarder in the first place. And that's going to go into what the core issue actually is. The core issue isn't the things. That's just a symptom. The core issue is what's happening deep down inside your soul. But the same thing can happen with people who are obsessed with minimalism. They're not addressing the core issue of what's happening. So for me, I grew up in a middle-class household, didn't have a lot of money to spend or anything. I had two older brothers and they were in all sorts of things that my parents had to pay for. Also, my parents married really young, so they didn't have a lot of money in their first 10 years of their marriage and they had to accumulate over time. And then once I became an adult, nothing much has changed. I just was perpetually a natural minimalist. So this wasn't even a thing in my early 20s, okay? I just naturally didn't even want to accumulate stuff because stuff really felt like it would weigh me down. But I discovered later on in my life with the help of a therapist that I have commitment issues. For example, a few years ago, I moved to Canada with 2 suitcases. And that felt so good because all of my stuff, including my birth certificate, my documents, everything was in 2 suitcases. That's all I own. It wasn't like I had stuff back at my parents' house or anything like that, except I did have a car. And I was trying to get rid of that, but it kind of worked out where I couldn't. I was so proud of those 2 suitcases, and really throughout my adult life, I moved about 17 times, and it was easy to move because I had very little things. And what I would typically do is just get my suitcases and maybe a couple trash bags, and I was off to go. As a matter of fact, I never moved into a place without it being pre-furnished. So I always moved into a month-to-month place that's already pre-furnished. And I didn't have that much stuff because I didn't need furniture. And it was a month-to-month. I didn't even commit to a single place for over a year. Definitely not over a year in my adult life. As a matter of fact, this is my first year I'm committed to one place for a whole year because I signed a lease, and I never signed a lease before in my whole entire life. I'm 30 years old, just as a reference. And I've seen that being an issue throughout my life just because it was a symptom. My minimalistic tendency of having less stuff was really just me not wanting to have anything to be responsible for. Because when you have stuff, you have to take care of those stuff. Let's just say even when you had plants. I never had plants until this year. When you have plants, you have to water that every day. And to some people, that might not feel like a big deal. But to me, having plants to water every single day, being responsible for those plants was actually very overwhelming. As you can imagine, having extra clothes was overwhelming too, because then that means, oh, like, what am I going to do with all these clothes? I need storage. I need to make sure they're on like nice hangers, or head would start to spin on all the things I need to do now that I have this extra item. I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to deal with it. So I thought, okay, I'm just not even going to go there. I'm just going to not buy that or not get that. Even though it would add value to my life, I'm just not going to go there. I do think it's very important to get a commitment on things. And it's not a commitment on things for the sake of commitment on things, but the core reasoning being that you're not afraid to get things. Because I was so afraid to accumulate anything in my life. I just got a camera. I didn't want to be responsible for having a camera, because this camera, for example, was, I don't know, $600, and being responsible for something so expensive, I just thought, I don't want to do that. So I got a webcam. For the longest time, I was doing my YouTube channel on a webcam because that was less responsibility and it was small, compact. I didn't really have to worry about it. When I traveled or when I moved, it was easy to just put in my bag. No problem, no big deal. But I recently got a big lighting and I got this camera with the mic and everything. And a part of that, I wouldn't have been able to do it if I had my old minimalism mindset of just having less and less and less, and less is better. But sometimes more is better depending on where you're at. The life of minimalism was so freaking toxic just because I was doing it for my fear of commitment and my fear of actually sticking to something and having that potentially not work out. And that's something that's just, it's scary. It's scary to accumulate things and it's scary to build upon something, having a foundation and building upon that. And I think a lot of people in big metropolitan cities maybe feel this way, but I actually think it's because we have deep-seated commitment issues. And because I grew up mostly in LA, I feel like that just was ingrained in me somehow, of that, like, don't let the man get you, and don't ever commit to any one thing. Just make sure you're always spread out all the time, just doing a bunch of different things, and you don't want to stay loyal to any one specific thing. And while I do think that eventually you want to build upon something, but without picking one thing that you want to pursue for a more longer term period, it's how are you going to progress? How are you going to get better? How are you going to even see if this is something that you want to do in the first place, instead of just doing nothing and spreading shiny object syndrome and getting nowhere, essentially. And that's how I felt throughout my 20s. You do need people and things in your life to help build you up. You can go faster alone, but you can go further with people. This year, I came back to Los Angeles, moving from Canada, and I hit up one of my friends who has her own 1-bedroom apartment in LA, and I said, hey, can I crash at your place, yada yada. And she said, yeah, sure. But then I was thinking to myself, wow, she is stable. She's been on this lease at this apartment for the last 2 years. And if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for her accumulating that apartment, not that it was a luxury fancy apartment, it was within her means, but if it wasn't for her accumulating that, I would have to go to an Airbnb, spend a lot of money. And at the time, I quit my job without having any backup plan. I didn't have a large savings or anything. And so I would have been pretty screwed just like going into an Airbnb, which I eventually did have to do just because it was long and things were kind of crazy. But the point being, I realized how I am not that person. There's always that person in your friends group that you can rely on. Hey, if something were to happen, or if I got drunk that one night or whatever, I can crash at my friend's place. And I realized that I'm not that person. Nobody can rely on me because I'm this vagabond minimalist that's essentially kind of mooching off of other people in life. And I just didn't want to be that person anymore. And especially after viewing a lot of Jordan Peterson content, which if you don't know Jordan Peterson already, I'll link his channel down below. Psychology professor turned life philosopher, and he's amazing. But what he made me realize is that I'm not the friend that friends rely upon. And I'm the friend that I lean on other friends. And I wanted to be the person at the funeral where people can rely on me to be the strong one. And I wasn't there at all. So I decided that, you know what, I'm going to settle and I'm going to start accumulating things. This year was the first year in my whole entire life that I actually bought furniture. And when I say bought furniture, I mean I bought a bed, I bought a desk, I bought a drawer. And that was the first time I ever bought any furniture at all, because I always had these pre-furnished places, which is actually cheaper to go into pre-furnished month-to-month place to live in. So I did it for financial reasons, but also I just did it because it was a habit. I was just comfortable in it. And the very funny thing that happened when I got my furniture, I was so nervous. I actually thought about it, going to sleep at night. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I bought a bed frame. I can't believe I bought a mattress. And I was very nervous about it. And I would stare sometimes in my bedroom. I would stare at my bed and I would stare at my desk and chair that I bought, even though the desk and chair together was $20 and the bed frame was $60. This is off of Facebook Marketplace. So it's not that I spent a lot of money on it, but I was just staring at it. And I felt this overwhelming sense of doom and discomfort and nervousness because now I was responsible for those items. If I were to move, which I did eventually, I would need to figure out what I'm going to do with it. Am I going to sell it? Am I going to have movers move it for me because it's too heavy? What am I going to do with it? And there's just so many things that went through my head that I was really stressed out by buying a bed frame, a desk and a chair with a drawer. So basically a bedroom set because I was renting out a room. Beyond that, I didn't have the thing or the right mindset, mostly the mindset of being the person that somebody else can rely on. And so it goes beyond just money and things. It's just about who I am as a person and how I operated and how I spoke to people and how I thought about things and how I viewed what people did. Just a total mindset shift this year of minimalism. And I started to accumulate stuff. And it's just small things, right? It starts with, okay, I bought an extra bath towel for a potential guest. If a guest comes over, I'm not gonna have them use my bath towel. They're gonna use a separate bath towel that's clean and nice. And though for some people that might be duh, but to me, I thought, well, one bath towel is enough. I only need one bath towel. Why do I need multiple bath towels? And if somebody were to come over, I would just do the laundry and then they would have the fresh bath towel. And then when they're done, I just do the laundry again. No problem. That's just one good example of me not being the person that other people can rely on because I didn't think about other people when I purchased things. I did the minimum that I can do for my own living, my own day-to-day living. So to me, when people are just proudly minimalism, I think that's great if you were once a hoarder. But if that's not the case, I would urge people to look into themselves and see if there isn't a deep-rooted issue because minimalism has become very toxic. It's steered away from its original mission, I think, which is look into yourself. What makes you happy? What do you value? Not accumulate less stuff as much as possible. And I don't want people to think that minimalism is some ultimate thing to achieve because it really isn't. The ultimate thing is to look into ourselves and see what's really happening within ourselves. That's my thoughts on that. Let me know what you think. Comment below on minimalism. I don't think I'll get a lot of flack from this, but I'm pretty sure people just look at the title or the thumbnail and think, oh, this person is a horrible person, even though they didn't watch the whole video, and then comment something. So if that happens, you already know that they didn't watch the video. I will see you on the next video. Remember to get out there and raise your vibe.